it's Ash. We are going on a murder mystery with Detective Hercule Poirot. I have never seen the original version of Murder on the Orient Express, but I did see the 2017s. I was thoroughly intrigued and even enjoyed the movie, while many didn't. Is it also strange that I never knew a book existed prior to this movie? Definitely. Since I have a pure desire to read a book prior to the movie, in this case I didn't, I truly liked the movie, and I was a little surprised by the ending. It has been a few years since I watched the movie, so I forgot a lot of the plot points to the end. So I picked up the book and rewatched the movie, so let's compare.
Have the eggs. Allons-y!
The book, to my taste, was rather bland. I felt spoon-fed oatmeal while getting a dash of sweet bites of sugar here and there. I felt this way because it had some sections of French dialogue, and I literally had no idea what was being said. Honestly, the random French dialogue was very taxing on my brain. Also, the location of the characters. Granted, these characters are trapped on a train, and they only have a few cars to have mingling moments. But a lot of it was placed around the dining car for the interrogations. Rarely we went in the sleeping cars or outside for some fresh air. It just felt stagnant. I do understand that Agatha Christie has a way of writing very slow and dramatic pieces to keep the suspense at your feet. For me, the pace was just too slow. Agatha Christie again likes to keep the mystery at hand, so having little explanation to the location of the characters with an idea already placed for the scenery, she can then focus more description on the murder itself with the objects involved to show what is more important of the details. But this doesn't mean I will not read another book by her. I have a few listed to read for the channel and for fun out of just pure curiosity. The movie, on the other hand, was paced nicely. I felt like I was a detective along with Poirot, because he would pause and express his thoughts to the audience by speaking out loud. This was very similar to the book of being in Poirot's head as a reader. Poirot even says,
"How did you know it was him, sir? From just a tiny crack on the wall?"
I have the advantage. I can only see the world as it should be. And when it is not, the imperfection stands out like the nose in the middle of a face. It makes most of life unbearable. But it is useful in the detection of crime.
The French or even Belgian languages are very lightly used. If they were, it was of common words of understanding. Poirot also had me at moments of just laughing by his actions. Between his mustache holder and the pure innocence of laughing at Dickens' books had me chuckling along with him.
Mr. Dickens.
In the movie, we then move to the humor of Poirot's sense of food and living life happily, literally stomping and smelling the bread. We meet his old friend Book, who invites him to the 3 days of carefree winter weather on the Orient Express, where he can start his holiday and catch up with some chatter. Book also makes a similar philosophical statement to the book, stating,
As advertised, and yet the best things on the train are not food. God, you know, there's something about a tangle of strangers pressed together for days on end with nothing in common but the need to go from one place to another, then never to see each other again.
The characters' introductions, interactions, and developments were well done both in book and the movie. Let's utilize the movie because the movie was easier to see their development for everyone being linked together in the end. In the middle of the night, while everyone is sleeping, Mr. Ratchet is killed during the train ride to Istanbul. The train also has to stop due to an unforeseen snowdrift in the book, whereas in the movie, it is more dramatic of an avalanche with a physical derailment of the train. Poirot, in charge of the interrogations, questions all of the passengers and helps get to the bottom of who killed Ratchet, or should I say, a team of people with one common goal: justice. All of these characters are linked around the Armstrong killing. They were a rich family that had their young daughter stolen. They paid the bribe for the return of their beloved daughter, and a few days later, she is found dead. The mother, upon hearing the news, gives birth prematurely, so she and the child both pass away. The father, who is also distraught at the loss of his entire family and finding no happiness in living any longer, commits suicide. Everyone on the train who is questioned by Poirot of their thoughts or knowledge of this horrific killing simply expresses that they are saddened by the story. All of these characters' developments were based around their involvement in the killing of Ratchet, or rather, the mystery of their linkage to the Armstrong family. Mary Debenham was the governess to the daughter Daisy. She is instrumental to the planning of Ratchet's murder. Colonel Arbuthnot, he was a dedicated friend to John Armstrong. Princess Dragomirov is the owner of the H handkerchief. She established many of the lies about other passengers' identities. Daughter or maid to Dragomirov is Natalia. She is actually Hildegard Schmidt, the family's cook. Mr. Samuel Edward Ratchet is actually Cassetti, who killed little Daisy Armstrong. Hector McQueen, acting as Ratchet's secretary, was actually involving Hector's father, who was a district attorney to the Armstrong case. He followed through with his father's justice. Greta Olson was the family nurse with the new zeal of God. Mrs. Hubbard is a late actress Linda Arden, mother to Sonia Armstrong. She provides consistent interruptions and diversions. The sleeping woman is Countess Elena Maria Goldenberg Andreni. Name is actually Helena Goldenberg. She's the younger sister to Sonia. She has a grease stain on her passport to conceal her true identity. The husband of the sleeping woman is Count Rudolph Andreni. He takes his wife's place in the murder. Mr. Cyrus Hardman was in love with Armstrong's nurse pre-suicide, and he pretends to help Poirot. Edward Henry Masterman was the valet officer to the family. Antonio Foscarelli was the Armstrong's chauffeur. When he speaks of Daisy, tears form in his eyes. Most importantly, Detective Poirot. Besides the descriptions, some of the lines by Poirot as our primary character were just written brilliantly. The action of Poirot suspecting everyone until the murder is concluded was such a great attention to detail. This gives us great insight into Poirot as a character development, especially for first-time readers or viewers like myself. Just phrases in general by Poirot were common-sense expressions, yet they felt perfectly applied on so many levels. For example, Poirot states,
With the mergers, I do not approve of murder, my friend. Every day we meet people the world could do better without, yet we do not kill them. We must be better than the beasts. So let us find this killer.
I swear, this man is brilliant. Prior to Ratchet's death, he does ask for assistance by Poirot to watch over him on the train and help him find his stalker. Poirot expresses no due to being on vacation. I personally thought the movie did this scene more justice than the book. Honestly, the movie in general did the book a lot of justice. The characters looked the same to their descriptions and actions. The questioning locations were not just in a singular area of the dining car, but throughout the entire train, including some outside time, like sitting at the table outside getting Mary's signature, the running away of McQueen, the further interrogation of Mary and Arbuthnot. Lastly, them all sitting like a dining table situation for the final discussion of who killed Ratchet. These scenes helped with the scenery and the reminder that they all were forced to be in a situation of patience amongst the chaos. The movie starts off very differently from the book. At first, I was very concerned, but we have to understand Poirot before we can just be him. The movie has Poirot at the Jerusalem Wailing Wall, where we see a brief look at his detective skills. You understand his need for balance from two eggs to the center of one's tie to have a proper start of keeping your mind open to all the details. In just a few minutes, we see Poirot solve the mystery of the stolen relic. Instead of a delay for a small dining car fire at the train station, we get a delay at the boat. While waiting for a boat ride in the hot weather of Jerusalem, Poirot meets Mary Debenham. During their light chatter, Mary expresses she will forget a name but never the face. Then we see Mary interact with the doctor, and she keeps their interaction cordial when clearly they know each other. Poirot catches this detail. The book starts off completely different because it starts with people freezing in the cold, all bundled up and getting on the train. Mary and Poirot first meet by him assisting her with opening her car window due to the heat of the cabin being overwhelming. Also, Mary and the doctor, Arbuthnot, initial interactions were similar to light talking and mentioning, "Not now, when it is all over, when it's behind us." The talk was similar, but the environment was very different. The understanding still stands that they know each other and have a past, not just a first interaction or one day worth of talking as friends. To add to the scenery, I felt the shots by the camera work for the train and the views were breathtaking. Again, informing you of the limited space we have for this crime scene. The book lacked the outside world in some ways, whereas the movie helped us feel the big picture of how many people were affected by this large family death. I mean, they literally came together for a trip on the opposite side of the world. In case you couldn't already tell if I wasn't a major fan of the book, I still personally enjoyed some aspects. Allow me to discuss a couple things. The amount of detail that had to be compiled and then linked for this large group of characters, I have to give the author credit for. I mean, it was 12 characters involved with the physical murder in roughly a 250-page book. Even for the time this book was written, it had a nicely diverse amount of characters. As much as the movie helps you visually see the characters, the book, I felt, gave the descriptions the best. You felt the accents and love or hatred that these people had towards others. Even some of their descriptions of their qualities were really well put or phrased unusually funny. Like, Mary Debenham is a young English lady that is slim with dark hair and has a knowledge of traveling the world. She is efficient in her actions and speaking. Or Colonel Arbuthnot is a tall British gentleman with a lean physique of brown skin and a grizzled haircut. Even Ratchet, or Cassetti, is basically described as an animal. But the one that made me laugh the most is the description for Princess Dragomirov. She is a rich Russian cosmopolitan, is an ugly-looking older woman that leaves a fascinating yet repelling attitude and toad-like face. Of all the descriptions, a toad-like face. The second funny description is from Poirot. He sat very upright, threw out his chest, caressed his mustache, and spoke in the manner of a practiced speaker addressing a public meeting. Poirot caressed his mustache? You can't make this up. Personally, after a certain point in the book, I became involved as a reader. I started asking questions to myself and suspecting characters with Poirot. I literally couldn't help myself. Would I read this book again? Probably not. But do I have some of Agatha Christie's books on my to-be-read list? Yes, like, surprisingly, The Death on the Nile. It is not often that I pick up a murder mystery book, but I now have a few books planned to be read by Agatha Christie due to some thrilling synopsises. If you love the book, this movie is truly not far behind, if not, in some ways, better, which I personally feel is rare to find in a book representation to a screen format. I look forward to future Poirot installments as long as this COVID situation slows down a little. Either way, if you have the time, read or watch this story, especially with a nice cup of tea beside you. Till our next video drop, stay nerdy and keep binging.
Dessert is an indulgence, and I feel kind of silly and stupid indulging alone.
I am at my happiest alone.